Think about everything that you need to do today. How do you determine which tasks are most valuable? How do you know you're spending your time wisely? I'm Dave Crenshaw, and in this course, I'll guide you through a simple and innovative 6-step process that the most productive people in the world use. We'll explore how to prioritize your tasks so that not only will you get valuable work done, you'll spend less time doing it. We'll talk about how you can make choices, maximize the value of your time, and uncover extra free time in the future. This prioritization system can help you increase the value of your time. It can provide more freedom to do the things that you love and spend time with the people you care about the most. If you regularly find yourself wondering, what should I be doing next? Or should I really be doing this task right now? Then join me. Together, we'll explore a simple, practical system for prioritizing your tasks. If you've learned about prioritization in the past, what I'm about to share with you will probably be very different. It may feel a bit radical, so I need to provide some context. The majority of prioritization systems are based on a variation of the Eisenhower decision matrix. This was first introduced by former U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Later, it was popularized by the brilliant leadership and time management expert Stephen R. Covey. It's based upon a matrix with 4 quadrants in which you decide what to do based upon what's urgent or important. We won't be using that matrix. Why? Well, from the 1950s through the 1990s, this model was practical and useful. However, with the deepest respect to my time management forebears, it needs an update and an upgrade. Consider what is different about our lives today in comparison to, say, 1988. From a time management perspective, the 2 differences can be summed up as interruptions and speed. You can now use a small handheld device to reach out to anyone around the world at any time. Individually, we can use these same devices to look up anything that we want to learn about, including this course. We live in an age of endless interruptions and unlimited opportunities. Yet so few of us have learned how to prioritize and protect ourselves from these endless interruptions and unlimited opportunities. Why? Because they happen so fast. As much as I hate the thought, I'm guessing about half of you are multitasking on me as I share this message with you. You know who you are. Every time we switch attention from one device to another device, or from one thought to another, we incur a cost. If we could get the world around us to slow down and stop interrupting us, then the Eisenhower decision-making matrix just might work. But that's not realistic for most people. What is realistic is creating a filter and a funnel for all the tasks and attention-grabbing opportunities that are presented to us. Let's say you could automatically set up a filter, a firewall for your attention, if you will. Then you could distill all of these ideas and opportunities down to what is most valuable. Value is everything. If you can increase the value of your time, then, bluntly speaking, it allows you to make more money while spending less time working. If you can make the same amount of money next year while working 25% less hours, then you've taken considerable control over your time. You'll also give yourself more freedom to live the kind of life that you want to live. You can spend more time with the people that you care about, and you can pursue even more valuable opportunities. So in summary, what we're going to do is replace the urgent and important mindset with a mindset of what is most valuable. Before we talk about the time value prioritization funnel, we first need to define a very important word, value. More specifically, the value of your time. In the method I'll share with you, every choice revolves around this question: is this my most valuable activity? Now, this funnel is primarily designed to help you with prioritizing work, however you define it. Ultimately, work is about creating or delivering value to yourself and others. You can use a variety of factors to determine how valuable a certain task is. But in the end, it all comes back to how much that activity is worth in terms of money per hour. It may seem odd to use money as a determining factor, perhaps even a bit cold and impersonal. As a husband and father, I believe spending time with my family has infinite value. I believe making time for healthy, non-work fun can also be incredibly beneficial. I must make time for them in my schedule. However, these kinds of activities are highly subjective. Money, on the other hand, has a measurable economic value and directly affects my ability to make time for what I enjoy most. Let's say you can increase the value of your work time and spend the majority of that time doing things that are only of high value. Then you are able to work less overall. This gives you the freedom to spend more time on your favorite hobbies or with people you care about, or traveling the world, or doing even more work, but not because you have to, because you want to. Unfortunately, most people get stuck doing all sorts of activities, most of which have low value. Because each hour spent working is worth so little, some people work many, many hours just to cover the basic needs for themselves and their family. Instead, by focusing on value per hour, we create freedom. But what is worth the most per hour? It's a topic I explore in great depth in my Time Management Fundamentals course. Here's the quick version. List all the different kinds of work-related activities that you perform. Then, after you've listed out all the activities, write the estimated value per hour for each of those activities. For instance, running errands to the store might be worth minimum wage, but developing new business opportunities may be worth hundreds of dollars per hour. And of course, there's a wide variety of values in between those two examples. Some tasks may even be worth $0, such as wasting time randomly surfing the internet. Then, after you've made this list with all the values per hour, rank each activity according to how much it's worth. First place would be the one that's worth the most per hour. The top two are your most valuable activities, or MVAs for short. Last place will be the one that's worth the least. Do your best with determining your two most valuable activities. Don't try to get it perfect, as you can and should adjust your MVAs over time. After you've got your best guess answers, write those two most valuable activities at the top of the time value prioritization worksheet that I provided. We'll explore how to use these MVAs to make decisions about prioritizing your time. Allow me to introduce you to the Time Value Prioritization Funnel, or as I like to call it, the TVP. We take tasks in, work them through the funnel, and at the end, only that which is most valuable comes out. Think of it like a super-powered water filter. We can pour any and every kind of liquid into it, and only the purest water remains at the end. This liquid example is perfect for our day and age, because everything is flowing at us with a great degree of fluidity, right? Information and opportunities drop on our heads like Niagara Falls. We can only catch a small portion of this, and what we do catch is still overwhelming. That's why we want this funnel, this filtration system. It's an automatic way of viewing everything so that we only put activities into our calendar that will either give us more time or will increase the value of our time. Let's take a brief overview of the filters in this funnel. Step 1 is No, Never Again. The largest part of the funnel is reserved to protect us from stuff that wastes our time. They are the worst investment of our time and should never be considered. Step 2 is Perhaps. These are tasks that have no clear decision attached to them. Perhaps we lack information, or perhaps it's just not something that we normally do. We'll pull these aside so we don't lose them. This also helps us avoid wasting our time on them right now. Step 3 is Yes, but not now. This filters tasks where the value is extremely low. We may know that we need to do them, but we also know that there's no value in doing them anytime soon. We're going to use the power of positive procrastination and push those things way off into the future. Step 4 in our filtration system is Yes, but not anyone. This is where we're going to use technology to fight technology. In other words, we're going to allow apps and hardware and sometimes just good old duct tape and baling wire to take care of this task permanently. This way, we never have to think about it again. Step 5 is Yes, but not me, which is used for identifying tasks that should be delegated to someone else. Why? Because someone else has likely listed that task as their most valuable activity. And because we haven't, we shouldn't spend our time doing it. And finally, step 6 is Yes, me. This means that the task has passed through our filtration system and shown that it's of the purest quality. It's the most valuable activity that we can do. So, we're going to either do it now, create a task reminder for it, or put it on our calendar. We want to create the habit of taking every task through this TVP funnel. The first step of the time value prioritization funnel involves answering one question. Is this task something you never, ever want to do or see again? If not, we should say no to it permanently. No is the most powerful word in your vocabulary, especially when it comes to doing things. Whenever you say no to something that has no or low value, you're saying yes to all the other amazing things that you could and should be doing with your time. Yet too few of us are saying the word no. In our information overloaded world, it's too easy to say yes to anything and everything that gets thrown at us. We understand this principle with something obvious, like spam. In this case, you can set a filter on your email program to permanently say no to that spammer, at least hopefully. But it's more difficult to reject less obvious time-draining tasks. These include zero-value activities no one should ever spend their time doing, like wasting time, negative self-talk, senseless internet arguments, and engaging in addictive and destructive behaviors. This also includes tasks that are so far outside of your most valuable activities that it makes no sense to even spend a moment thinking about them. I once spoke at an event in Africa where I met many wonderful people. Years later, one attendee reached out to me and asked if I would organize an event on forensic accounting in his country. Considering I know little to nothing about forensic accounting, know nothing about his country, and the event would be thousands of miles away, this was clearly a no, never again situation, so I politely declined and clearly explained why. As I've shared some of these examples, odds are something has come to mind, something that you're participating in that you shouldn't be doing. Make a note to yourself and say no, never again to it. Freeing yourself from these activities saves hours of meaningful time that could be used for much more valuable activities. If something hasn't come to mind, ask yourself this question: what's something that I find myself doing on a repeated basis that neither I nor anyone I know should ever do again? There are a variety of methods to distance yourself from these kinds of tasks. They are as diverse as the negative tasks themselves. For serious issues, such as addiction, I recommend seeking professional help. But for simpler tasks, you can control them with just a little bit of effort. Whenever a zero-value activity comes to mind, tell yourself no. See a big stop sign with flashing red lights around it. If you can, say it out loud. No, never again. This warns your mind to stay away. Then just throw the task away, put it aside, or create another filter to prevent that task from reappearing. While it may take some effort and investment on your part, you're going to save yourself considerable time and money in the long run. You'll free up your focus and energy to redirect toward things that are far more valuable. The second step of the time value prioritization funnel is perhaps. This mental filter is designed to catch tasks that are of uncertain value or where you just lack commitment. When you come across an idea or a task like this, it's best to slow down a moment. Pause before scheduling something on your calendar because your calendar is a commitment. We don't want to schedule anything that we're not fully committed to doing. Instead, put these items on a perhaps list that you'll review later. What belongs on a perhaps list? Well, I pulled open my perhaps list and saw things like add sound effects to my speaking slides, create custom t-shirts, and learn Mandarin Chinese. These were all great and interesting ideas, but they're just that, ideas, and nothing more. In some cases, they distract from my most valuable activities. Now, someone might say, Dave, they're just silly ideas. You should get rid of them. There are two problems with that. First, ideas and opportunities like this tend to occur repeatedly in our minds unless we do something about them. This creates many switches in attention in our day and slows down our productivity. We must get them out of our head and put them somewhere our minds know we'll look at in the future. And second, sometimes these crazy ideas can turn out to be a brilliant step forward in our careers or organization. By putting them on a perhaps list, we respect the value of an idea. By creating a schedule on our calendar to review that perhaps list on an occasional basis, our minds can relax. It communicates to them that, yes, you might do something about this at some point in the future, but this is not that moment. For example, you might create a 10 a.m. appointment on the fourth Sunday of every month to review your perhaps list for 30 minutes. At that time, scan through the ideas and see if there's anything that you want to pick up and put back in the funnel. Everything else, just leave it on the perhaps list for a future review or maybe your amusement. The third step of the time value prioritization funnel is yes, but not now. This is reserved for ideas where we've identified some value and we have some commitment to follow through. However, we recognize that it doesn't need to be done anytime soon. This includes tasks that don't have a deadline for months or years into the future. For these, we're going to positively procrastinate. Sounds strange? If used to avoid tasks because we don't feel like working or we're trying to avoid feeling uncomfortable, then that's negative procrastination. We want to avoid this at all costs. But for tasks that have low or delayed value, procrastination is our friend. Rather than making choices about these tasks right now, we want to push them off into our schedule for an appropriate amount of time. We do this by first asking the question, when is the latest that I have to start thinking about this? For example, let's say that I had a brilliant idea for expansion. I'm going to do something new with my business that I've never done before, but I recognize that I've already got significant projects in the works, and they're not going to be complete for another 6 to 8 months. It's not appropriate for me to start something new because that will split up my focus. So, I go to my calendar 8 months into the future and create a task reminder. A task reminder doesn't take up space on my calendar, but it does have a specific date and time when a reminder will pop up. That will tell me it's time to start considering this particular expansion idea or whatever item was postponed. This reminder essentially tells me it's time to put the task back into the TVP funnel. In this way, you don't lose the idea and you don't neglect thinking about it. Instead, you can appropriately delay thinking about it, which allows you to focus on what is most important right now. Remember, procrastination can be a positive if done properly. We are halfway through the time value prioritization funnel. If you've done things properly up to this point, you should have filtered out at least half of all the tasks from your initial list. Now we're only dealing with tasks of higher value. That means we're ready for the fourth step, which is yes, but not anyone. Sounds strange? Simply put, we're saying yes, we need to complete this thing, and yes, it has value, but no human being should do this. We want to automate the process of completing this task. Yes, but not anyone tasks have a great deal of value because when handled properly, they free up significant amounts of time in the future, time that you can reuse to focus on your MVAs. How do we get humans out of the picture? Well, usually it's going to come down to either software or hardware. We're going to explore if we can get an app or find a machine to take care of the task. So before delegating this to someone else or doing it yourself, simply ask the question, can I automate this task? Even if you can't completely remove all the work for yourself by using an app or hardware, you can greatly reduce the amount of time it takes to complete things. Let's imagine you had a task that required you to copy a set of numbers from 1 to 100,000. Now, obviously, we wouldn't want to do this by hand. We would automate it by using a printer or copier to do the job for us. It seems like a silly, obvious example. However, there are many obvious situations in your day where you are performing manual labor that an app or a machine could easily do for you. Let's say you're in a position where we're dealing with the exact same task over and over and over. Perhaps we have a responsibility over social media. This involves posting hundreds of times to various social media sites over the course of weeks. Rather than taking the time to post one every single day on each site, we can use an online app like Buffer to schedule all of them in advance. This works for menial tasks too. Rather than creating a reminder every month to buy more copying paper, we can set up a recurring subscription on a site like Amazon. Then the system buys it for us on a regular basis. Yes, but not anyone is like making an investment of time. You're going to spend some time up front so that in the future you have to spend far less time doing something over and over. Just like you can invest money, you can invest time and get back time dividends. And if you find yourself dealing with a recurring annoyance in your day, take care of it using some good old-fashioned tools and a life hack if necessary. For example, an automatic two-sided printer can reduce steps you need to take when printing, or improving your workspace layout can reduce unnecessary repetitive motion. Little improvements add up. A 2% increase in productivity can yield an entire work week every single year. We've reached the fifth step of the time value prioritization funnel, which is yes, but not me. We've now determined that this task has value and we should do it soon. We've also decided that we can't use technology to get rid of it or to simplify it any more than we have. So now it's time to involve real human beings. This means delegation. First, let me contrast delegation with abdication. Abdication is when you tell someone to do something and you just hope it turns out okay. It's almost like a flip of the coin or a roll of the dice. Delegation, on the other hand, means we give people clear instructions, we establish clear expectations, and we follow up with them to make sure the job was done properly. All of us, regardless of what position we hold, have the opportunity to delegate. If you go to that burger shop on the corner, you're delegating the task of making burgers, fries, and a milkshake. You expect that they'll get it back to you after you pay them money. You're holding them accountable because if they don't do a good job, you'll probably leave negative comments on a review site. You're also delegating when you ask a coworker to assist you on a project. You want to communicate to them clearly what you want done and the time by which it should be completed. All of us can delegate, yet few of us do it properly. In my leadership coaching, I've seen far too many executives repeatedly performing tasks that someone else has already been hired to perform. Properly delegating those tasks would make their job much more productive. It would also empower those hired to perform those specific tasks. So the fifth step of the TVP funnel becomes an invitation to ask yourself, would it be more productive if someone else performed this task instead of me? Then, if you don't feel the answer is yes, ask yourself, would it be more productive if I trained someone else to properly perform this task instead of me? If you still don't get a positive answer from that, ask yourself, would it be more productive if I hired the right person to perform this task instead of me? If you think that hiring people doesn't apply to you, be assured that hiring people applies to everyone and not just for burgers and fries. Many of you have hired Uber or Lyft drivers to take you from one place to another. Many of you have used online outsourcing sites such as Fiverr or Upwork to help you get small jobs done. In preparing the script for this course, I used both a transcription service and a proofreader. This isn't to say that every task you perform should be delegated to someone else. That's unreasonable. What I am saying is that you should consider the value of the activity that you are about to perform. If it's not the highest value activity on your list and you can't use technology to get it done, consider how you might delegate it to someone else who's more skilled at that very task. We're now at the final step of the time value prioritization funnel. Yes, me. Your task has been filtered fully, and at this point, we are only left with those which are most valuable. This is a task you yourself should do. I've found that my two most valuable activities are creating content, like this course, and delivering content, like standing in front of this camera. You also have two most valuable activities. When you perform them, you're at your very best. You do great things in your organization and in the world, and the marketplace has determined that you have value when you do this kind of work. If for some reason you've reached the end of the TVP funnel without tasks that match up with these two MVAs, try going through the funnel again one more time. While it's possible that you'll reach the end and still have a less valuable task, it's worth another try. We're trying to change your perspective on your workday, away from just being busy to being valuable. The more time you can spend doing your MBAs, the more you will increase your value in the marketplace. This gives you more money for less time spent working, which in turn gives you more freedom. Let's assume the task you're looking at is one of your most valuable activities. So, when should you do it? In a general sense, the more valuable it is, the sooner it should be done. We also want to be aware of how long the task will take and if there are any deadlines involved. A deadline means you committed to get something done by a certain time, or someone who manages you has given you a due date, or other coworkers must wait for you to complete your work before they can proceed. We must always respect the effect our work has on others. Let's get more specific. If the task can be done in 5 minutes or less, regardless of the value, do it now. This is more efficient than scheduling it and doing it later. If the task doesn't have a deadline and is between 5 and 15 minutes, add it to a task reminder list with a specific date and time. This reminder will pop up at that time to say, hey, is now a good time to perform this task? You can be flexible with your answer to that. But if a task has a deadline or it will take longer than 15 minutes, it needs to go to the calendar. And I've found that for most people, most of their tasks belong on their calendar. When scheduling to the calendar, consider both the value of the task and its deadline. The more valuable it is, and the sooner the deadline, the sooner you should schedule it on your calendar. The less valuable it is, and the later the deadline, the later you should schedule it. By later, I mean beyond 2 weeks, maybe even beyond 2 months or more. Think longer term. This will free up more time for you to focus on what is truly most valuable. In the end, priority is a function of time. If a task is valuable and is a priority to you, then schedule time to complete it. The more valuable it is, the sooner you should do it. I want to help you see the time value prioritization funnel in action and give you some context. So let's walk 2 different tasks for 2 different people through the funnel. First, let's imagine we have a head of marketing for a small to medium business. Her most valuable activities are creating and executing marketing plans. One day, she's looking at various competitor websites. She feels like her company's website is a bit outdated and could be improved. Let's walk this through the funnel. Step 1. No, never again. This certainly is not a destructive or negative task, and it does relate to her MVAs. So we can move forward. Step 2. Perhaps. While this is a very big picture idea, it clearly has value. It's also something that this head of marketing wants to do. So we move on. Step 3 is yes, but not now. The head of marketing looks at everything else she has going on right now. This includes appearances at 3 major trade shows over the next 6 months and a variety of other significant projects. She decides that even though this is something that they need to handle, bringing it up now is inappropriate. It would distract everyone from more urgent priorities. So, she looks ahead on her calendar for the next appropriate window to begin thinking about this. It's 7 months from now. She creates a task reminder that will send her an email reminding her of the website. She also includes some links of the sites that prompted this inspiration. The task is now prioritized. Let's look at another. Now we have a sales rep for a large company. His MVAs are making new connections and closing sales deals. After months of communication, a prospect has finally asked the rep to provide a proposal. Let's walk this through the TVP. Step 1. No, never again. This is not a negative thought or pattern and clearly relates to his MVAs, so the rep moves on. Step 2. Perhaps. This has value, clearly, and should not end up lost on a perhaps list, so we move on. Step 3. Yes, but not now. There is time-sensitive urgency behind this request. He needs to keep moving forward and do something about it soon. Step 4. Yes, but not anyone. Could the proposal be automated? Well, to a degree, it already has been. There's a proposal pattern, structure, and template that he can use. Perhaps his company uses a specific app to track sales to make that easier for him. So, as of now, he's using technology as much as he can to help with this task. Step 5. Yes, but not me. Would it be more productive if he delegated this task to someone else, or trained someone else to do it, or hired someone else to do it? The answer is no. This is the sales rep's job. However, while considering this, the sales rep recognizes that he has problems with typos and errors. So he makes a note to himself to ask a colleague to review his proposal before submitting it to the prospect. This brings us to step 6. Yes, me. Yes, he should do this himself. It will take longer than 5 minutes, so he can't do it now. Also, it has a deadline. so he can't use a task reminder. He opens his calendar and schedules an appointment for the next day. He'll spend an hour and a half completing the proposal. Now you've seen it in action. It's time for you to put the TVP to use. Congratulations on completing the course. Now you have a simple framework that you can use to quickly funnel through all the different tasks and opportunities that come your way. Life moves very fast, so it's important that this becomes second nature. How do you do that? Through repetition and practice. If you and I were having a private coaching session, I would ask you to use this prioritization system 15 times. Pull up a list of tasks, whether it's in an email, your inbox, or a bunch of scattered notes on your desk. Pick one item at a time and begin with step 1 of the funnel. These repetitions are critical in helping you build productive habits. Also, if you haven't already, I'd recommend taking a look at my course, Time Management Fundamentals. It will give you a deep dive into strategies to become more productive. Thank you for watching, and may you stay focused on that which is most valuable.